All right, welcome everybody to this important show. Hope everybody is doing great out there. And it looks like we are good to go. Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, what do we have here? Friday just around the corner. So, big welcome everybody. So, today's episode 10 of our abuse series. We finally made it. It's time to finish this important series with a powerful final finale to ensure that you live a safe and happy life. We're going to get into it. So obviously this has to deal with what we have not covered. The specific example of physical abuse. This final episode will be complementing episode 3 of the abuse series, which is about domestic violence. Today, we will be diving into the world of self-defense to protect yourself and perhaps others as well, such as a mother protecting her child from an out-of-control husband who's gone to the wild, evil side. So, unfortunately, it would take hours and hours to cover every single possible scenario. But for the purpose of this stream, 1 hour or less, we're just going to get right into the nitty-gritty, the gist of it, as we always do. So without further ado, before anything, I must issue you a very strong disclaimer. I am not responsible at all for the decisions that you may choose to make, either now or in the near future, concerning what is presented here today. Not responsible at all. It's just advice. You can take it or leave it, but in the end, it's your decision. You have been warned. As a martial artist with 30 years plus of experience, I was a soldier, but I was always a warrior, way before I even joined the army. As a martial artist and very well trained, as a bodybuilder / martial artist, I can say that I could easily either finish somebody for good, knock them out, or suppress them at the very minimum. Now, does that mean that I can defeat anybody and everybody? No. No fighter can. It's all situational based. It depends on the fighter themselves. For example, Conor McGregor, he can't defeat everybody. He's lost a few fights, but, those fights could be rigged, yada yada. Or, Oscar de la Hoya in his good days. Or it doesn't matter if it's Mike Tyson, who's now in his elder years. There's no such thing as a fighter that can defeat every single fighter in the world. There's always going to be somebody stronger or luckier. Beat you to the punch. It's all situation based, and a lot of it is luck. When you're evenly matched, it doesn't matter. It can go either way. This is proven in sports, by the way. The same concept. Either one can win. It depends on a variety of variables to consider. So the world of self-defense is just like that. So your first option in any self-defense situation is to simply run away. So make sure you're in shape. Seek immediate help from someone. It's always best to avoid an unnecessary confrontation that could easily end up becoming deadly. So why place yourself at risk in the first place? If you can run away, run outside the house, run outside the office, wherever this is taking place. Running is your first option, or simply getting away, drive away, walk fast. And if you have a child to protect, it doesn't matter. You could be the father and the wife goes ballistic. Now you have to grab your child and run away with your child. If you don't have children, then you have to save yourself. Don't underestimate a woman who's out of control, who's acting like a raging demon. She could grab a hold of a knife, a firearm, you name it. And it doesn't matter who's wrong in this situation. The fact is, somebody's going to potentially get killed, and that's precisely why I'm doing this stream. We want to avoid all of that as best we can, but we also have to consider the scenario itself. There's a lot of variables to consider. It all makes sense in the end. So if you're going to run away, hide yourself among other crowded people or quickly enter a building with lots of people. This is going to help you blend in, and then your attacker's not going to know where you went. It seems like common sense, but you'll be surprised how many people easily forget about this. It's called hide and go seek. We used to play it as kids, but yet adults seem to forget this. They either freeze and become paralyzed, which is fight or flight, or freeze. Many people forget the freezing part. You become paralyzed with fear. We'll get into that later. If you don't have your phone with you, simply ask someone to call the police immediately and stay around a group of people at all times. The people are going to be your best friend. Doesn't matter how crazy your attacker is. There's a bunch of witnesses when you hang around with people. And most likely your attacker is going to stop dead in his tracks and reconsider, reevaluate his plan of action. So blend in if you can. Now, if there's no people around, then you need to keep running, don't you? Even if he chases you down with a car, or she, then you need to run to anybody and get in the car with them, and you both drive away. Hitchhiker style. Whatever it takes. Running away has options. Use your imagination. Now, if there is nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, it's just you and your insane family member, friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whoever your attacker is, physical abuse. Whether it's deadly or not, nobody should have to endure any form of physical abuse. It could even be sexual abuse for that matter. You never know. The idea is to get out of danger. Do not freeze. That's the last thing you want to do. Now is the time to start thinking fast. Every second counts. If there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, you're up against the wall. This is the moment we're going to discuss self-defense options. All right. The second option, besides running, is to talk to your attacker. That's right. Ask them to stop. De-escalating the situation might actually work. Dangerous people often don't want to commit a crime. But just in case this option fails, because you could have someone who's drunk, on drugs, or just simply lost their mind all of a sudden. Bipolar disorder. And you just happen to not know about it. I mean, anything can happen. But we'll discuss the details later. Yes, talking to your attacker. For example, somebody who wants to shoot you with a firearm or impale you with some other weapon, if you look at them in the eyes and you speak to them, you could actually get them to reconsider. It's possible. But if that fails, well, now you need to reconsider. Obviously, the third option is to pull a firearm on your potential attacker. If you have one, of course. But be very careful in this situation, because it could be you who ends up going to prison if excessive use of force is discovered or later ruled by the court of law. That's right. We're going to get into it. You think that, oh, let me just pull out my 45, whatever pistol it is. Even a 50 cal Desert Eagle for all I care. It doesn't matter if you can handle the recoil for women out there. I'm just trying to tell you that the firearm may seem like a smart option, but it's all relevant to the situation. If you don't have a firearm, the fourth option is to pull out a knife. Now, this might stop your potential attacker. It might. But again, if you were to mentally and emotionally lose it, with tons of stabbing and slashing, you could end up being the one to go to prison. Now, obviously, a firearm is deadly. Even if you aim for the legs, you could hit the sciatic nerve. And that's deadly. So it's not like the movies where you shoot somebody in the leg and, oh, okay, they're just going to stop attacking you and they'll be fine. No. You could cause permanent injury. And even with a knife as well. But when push comes to shove, right? Well, we will get into that in the very end. Trust me. So here we are with option number 5. Traditional self-defense. Even if it means breaking some bones, just try your best not to kill your attacker with deadly strikes. Because once again, you could end up being the one going to prison for murder. Or whatever they want to toss in there. You can have a count of this, another count of that. Because sometimes criminal justice is justice for the criminals. And they'll label you as a criminal. Because, well, here we are. It's perfectly natural to want to defend yourself. However, how you choose to defend yourself is the tricky part. When the police and detectives arrive, will your story match what the crime scene shows? Maybe they'll write down a different story. There's injustice all the time. You know, it's not what really happened, unfortunately. It's what it looks like. If they arrive on the scene and see your attacker dead on the ground and you have no wounds, what does that look like? You could possibly go out for that. You might be going for that life insurance. They might think that. Or they might say, yeah, but there's no sign of him or her harming you. So why did you use such excessive use of force? The person's literally dead. What do you think the police are going to write? I know it's tough. But if you don't think about this, you could be the one ending up paying the price. They won't believe you. Because in the court of law, evidence is all you have. If they determine that it was you who used excessive use of force, say you emptied a whole magazine on your attacker, or you couldn't stop stabbing and slashing, you're the only one left standing. In this case, you must be able to strongly prove what happened. That's kind of like hoping to have bruises and injuries to prove, hey, look, obviously I was attacked. But that's not always the case. That's not always the case. Sometimes the innocent end up going to prison. It's horrifying. That's why this stream is being conducted right now. Installing home cameras might be a good backup solution if you sense that things might turn violent at any time. However, the main challenge is the mutual agreement to install such cameras. And then there's, of course, the case of privacy. So, say there's domestic violence occurring, you decide to install cameras. I hope they're hidden cameras, because your potential attacker is going to easily say, oh, let me just turn off those puppies. I mean, there's a lot of different cases that can happen, a lot of different scenarios. Variables in any given scenario. So, but that's one option, but we'll get into it. I don't want to give too many details at once. To prevent all of this, one must be well aware of the early warning signs. Always be vigilant and notice when someone's behavior is off or potentially dangerous. When noticing unusual, unexplained aggression. That's evil behavior, people. There are warning signs to every crime, every potential crime when someone's in danger. And things could get much, much worse. If you don't pay attention to the warning signs, now it's you setting yourself up for failure. Because there are warning signs. Things like this don't just happen. You don't just wake up one day and find yourself in a crazy self-defense scenario domestically. With your loved one or with someone else. Now, an intruder, yes. You could wake up one day to an intruder, but that's a whole different thing. We're talking about relationships, whether it's family members, friends, or, of course, long-term relationships. Where the husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend all of a sudden goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. What do you do then? Well, there were warning signs. I hope you paid attention to them, because your sixth option is simply to be ready for anything. Train yourself in any form of self-defense. It's not for exercise only. It's not some recreational hobby, even though it's in my hobby ranking stream, in my ranking series. You have to train yourself. The more, the better. That includes striking, because the last thing you want to do is wrestle around with your opponent on the floor, which could go either way. That's right. Avoid grappling. You know, a lot of people are obsessed with grappling. they That's good, you know, on a one-on-one basis. But how do you know that for sure? You see, because striking is always going to be more effective than grappling. Sure, you could wrestle on the ground and see who wins, but you gave up your balance, and now it's anybody's game. Because what works in the gym is not always going to work, or the dojo or dojang is not always going to work on the mat. It's not going to always work in real life. It all depends. Are you cool, calm, and collected enough to be able to throw those strikes accurately and with precision? I mean, because there's a lot going on in a surprise case scenario. You'd be surprised who would freeze up. You could have the biggest muscles, the fastest striking, the most powerful strikes ever, and you'll still freeze up. Because you haven't been in this amount of danger before, or somebody totally surprised you, and you never thought it would be them, the one attacking you. Don't ever underestimate such scenarios. The reason I say to avoid wrestling is because there could always be more than one attacker. 2 or 3 against 1. This, among other reasons, is precisely why option 1, running away, will always be the best you can do. The best option. It'll always be the best option. Because why risk yourself? Once again, you might think, oh, it's time to test out my grappling skills. And then guess what? 2 or 3 attackers show up and you're like, what's going on here? It could be the case with friends who you thought they were your friends, but showed up with 2 other buddies to rob your house and beat you up or kill you in the process. Yeah, that could happen. Or family members, just because they share the same blood as you do, as you have. No. Family members, that's why they call it bad blood. Because family members can even turn on you like you never believe. And you'll be amazed on what crazy, insane family members are capable of. Violence is just one crazy one. That lies, violence, slander, stalking you. There's a lot of horrific scenarios. But of course, violence is one of them. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. And just like you think you know your partner, that's why I always preach a perfect soulmates relationship. Because all these weak and mediocre relationships, one day you can find yourself being beat up by your partner or stabbed. I've heard so many stories offline. It's really sad. And people think, oh, I'm ready. Are you really ready? If you are well trained, then you will know how to fight smarter and not harder. Hopefully. That is to strike your enemy where with 1 or 2 strikes, it should be sufficient. The tricky part is being able to accurately land your strikes. Little quick diagram here. Obviously the head, the neck, and the solar plexus, which is the center chest. The groin areas, the knees, the ankles, but that, the lower back, the back of the neck. But yeah, okay, can you get to those parts? I mean, we're talking about close. It's very close here. Close quarters combat. One-on-one, man to woman, man to man, whatever the scenario is, it is going to be tricky, especially if you're the smaller one. But these are the best places, more or less, if you're going to strike your enemy. It seems obvious, but many people, they freak out, they freeze up. This includes being able to kick with great technique, force, balance, and accuracy, because the legs are a longer, stronger range weapon compared to your hands, elbows, or knees. Low to mid-level kicks are best for dangerous encounters. Just like the diagram showed, kicks to the knees, groin, those are low kicks. Now, if you can catch, if you're really talented and you can throw high kicks with deadly force, I get it. But the safer option are lower kicks for reasons for balance, accuracy. It's no time to be showing off. But if you are extremely proficient in high kicks, yeah, why not? But you have to set up your opponent first. High kicks are not meant to be used right off the bat. It's more of a follow-up technique. And it's not fancy. They are deadly. They do work. I can kick somebody in the jaw or the head, above their head easily. But am I going to use that as my first tool? No. You have to set your opponent up. Because almost anybody can see it coming if you're not, even if you're fast, it doesn't matter. You know, when both of you are fresh in a fight, that's the last thing you want to do is throw a fancy kick. And yes, I can do spinning heel kicks, yada yada, I get it. Taekwondo, Muay Thai. But the point is, use the safer techniques where you have maximum stability, because you don't know where you're going to be fighting. It could be outdoors in your driveway when it's snowing or raining or windy, poor visibility at nighttime, in the morning you can barely see too, whatever the scenario is. You can barely even see your attacker. You don't even know what's going on. There's always the element of surprise. So it's not the time to be showing off. Even with grappling techniques. Oh, let me get him in this arm bar. Are you serious? So, and you know, a lot of people, they just bank on it. They're like, yeah, sure, I'm going to pull it off. Watch. You don't even know when it's going to happen, if it ever happens. That's why I say you just have to be ready. That's the most you can do. Train to the best of your ability and hope for the best. Don't expect the worst, because that means you're living a poor quality life. Option number 7 is to always carry around some other form of self-defense in order to fight smarter and not harder. But what if you end up getting attacked after taking a shower or without your self-defense device nearby? Think about it. I mean, you don't have your mace spray. You don't have your alarm with you or your strobe light. It's like Batman without his utility belt. Batman takes showers too, people, in his mansion. Bruce Wayne. It's the same in real life. Everybody has to get naked and clean their bodies. So what if it's during that moment? What if it's in your sleep? All of a sudden you're being choked to death in your own bed by your loved one or who else. Nobody's going to be prepared for that. But we're going to get to one way you can be prepared for that. Don't worry about it. I came prepared. So that's where we find ourselves once again back to option number 6. Man or woman, it is your life we are talking about. No matter who your attacker is, you must be prepared to defend yourself, which requires even something more. So, what could it possibly be, something more? Well, the ability to remain calm in any dangerous scenario. This is precisely why I always tell people that the best thing they can do in any stressful life situation or a dangerous self-defense situation, as we're discussing here, is to remain as calm as possible. You're not going to be like a yogi master meditating on the top of the mountain here. Just as calm as possible, reasonably possible, in order to maintain focus. Martial arts, for example, is not about just kicking and punching and blocking. Just no, it's not about all the strikes. And look, they also have a mental focus aspect, because a fighter who's too enraged might have a lot of power, but he's off balance. He's not focused. He lacks proper technique. So haymakers, too much aggression. He could still win the fight if the other person is not smart enough or strong enough or both. Like I said, anybody can win a fight. It could go both ways. Most cases. But, of course, the more trained one person is, the higher possibility, the likelihood that they'll win the fight. But focus is everything. In life in general. Not just for the purpose of this stream when it comes to physical abuse. Your mind has to be ready. That's number one. Even when you choose to run away, which was option number one, you first have to think about it. In a split second. I'm in danger. I need to evacuate the premises. I need to save myself. Many people, they just freeze. And they end up becoming the cheese for the mouse to eat. You know? Stuck in the rat trap. But you're the cheese. So this time the rat wins. You don't want that to happen. So maintaining always a calm, level mindset, maintaining focus, always being as calm as possible. That's why trolls and negative people online, you can tell that they're gonna be the ones to freeze in a situation like this. They're gonna be the ones to not make it. Now, the cool, calm, and collected, the positive thinkers, the productive ones, they have an enormous possibility to survive compared to the negative thinkers, the drama folks, because they're training themselves to be weak. Over here, I'm about helping people to train themselves to be the best they can be. Strength, not weakness. So, when your mind is calm and your emotions are stable, focus is achieved. Only then will you make the right choice as to what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Split seconds here. Taking into account all potential consequences for every possible action. So, hopefully you don't make the wrong choice if you find yourself in a self-defense scenario. Domestic violence can turn into a deadly situation. That's why I'm following up from episode 3 of this series, Abuse, Domestic Violence, because it could turn deadly. Now we're talking about physical abuse. In any case, no matter which action you choose to take, just make sure you survive a potentially deadly abusive situation. In the end, that's all that counts, no matter what the judge says. Your life is priceless. So if you want to shoot your attacker, go ahead. You want to use a knife, go ahead. In the end, it's survival that counts. But just be aware that we do live in an unjust world. So you are taking a gamble. So now let's say you chose one of those options. Even if you break a few bones, it could still be you going to prison. But at least you're still alive. You could always appeal the court's decision. But I just don't want anybody to fall into that scenario. So what's the next best thing to avoid this mess? Right? Because sometimes criminal justice is justice for the criminals. And the innocent are the ones who are punished. Well, here you go. Even better than option number 1, running away. Or even maintaining focus and calm, which you should be doing anyways. Seek help, right? Well, the absolute best option of all of them is preventative maintenance. Don't wait for things to get worse. Seek help immediately if you sense potential physical abuse or future abuse. Always evaluate the scenario, right? You have to have a plan. It's not just a plan of attack if something happens in a self-defense scenario. You want to avoid all of that. So, what's the absolute next best advice besides having a plan or running away? right? Because it gets even better, people. Well, this is exactly why every couple needs to strive for perfection. Because if they did, we wouldn't even have domestic violence or deadly aggressive physical abuse situations to deal with. And that's the raw, undeniable fact. If each and every single one of us strived for a perfect relationship, there would be none of these surprises because both partners are happy. Nobody can dispute that. I don't care who's talking, professionals, non-professionals, alike. Love always will conquer evil, but it requires the belief of each and every single one of us in order to achieve that. That's why we have the world we have today. There's too many passive, negative thinkers out there. Oh yeah, whatever, love, hee hee ha ha. That's precisely why domestic violence continues. And these hate crimes, these murder crimes, you name it. Kidnapping, whatever it is. Sexual abuse, the big R word, you name it. Because people don't take love seriously. And they think perfection doesn't exist. That's the problem. You end up with a lazy society, lazy masses across the world. Lost, spiritually lost. That means your emotions are pretty much zombified. That's the problem. Evil would simply go away if people were to take the topic of love as serious as I do, for example. So join me, or you could join the mediocre side and potentially end up becoming an abuser one day. So if you're for the most part a positive thinker, you like to help others, you're a giving person to the people who deserve it, then you should be fine. But you have to mind who you have relationships with, because they could betray you one day if they are not on the same level you are. And please protect yourselves out there. There are warning signs, as I mentioned before in this stream. Don't ignore them. Don't excuse them. I don't care if it's your family member, your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your own son or daughter, for all that I care. Evil is evil, and it only possesses the weak. And then they become somebody that you no longer recognize. You don't know who the heck they are anymore. Now your life is in jeopardy. They could possibly steal money from you, or verbally abuse you, take advantage of you somehow, if you allow it. So don't take any form of abuse from anybody, even online. Defend yourself. You could say whatever you want. Just be careful, though. Don't go overboard. You don't want to waste your energy on those who don't deserve it. But, the fight against evil is everybody's fight. It's humanity's fight. Whether or not it ends one day, I can't tell you. But all I know is that love, true love, is the answer. So, as long as that's not being taken seriously, I don't know what to tell you. There's always hope. One can always hope. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed this stream and learned something, or are reminded about something, or maybe food for thought at the very least. And another show coming your way, so we can finish all these series with the loud bang, lots of fireworks. And have a good one. Thanks for watching.